Hi, this is Michael Uslan. You're listening to Batman on Film.
We're riding through Gotham with the podcast crew. That's in us up, yeah, we're on the move. Talking Batman tales, we're telling what's true. Gotham Knights breaking down each clue. TBOF, bring the heat. Talking Batman ain't that sweet. Tune in for the crime and lore. Batmanimation, we want more. Laugh, the Bane's mighty roar, Arkham's secrets and so much more. Dive into shadows, legends reborn through the darkest night. The baddest swarm, TBOF, bringing the heat. Talking Batman ain't that sweet. Tune in for the crime and lore. Batmanimation, we want more.
The Adventures of Batman.
Welcoming you to the new adventures of Batman.
Welcome to episode 70 of Batmanimation, a Batman on Film podcast, revisiting the animated adventures of the Cape Crusader. I'm senior contributor Javi Trujillo, and joining me today is a purveyor of pastelaya, old Billy Jet. What's cooking, Coach?
This week, I'm doing dirty rice, red beans, and andouille sausage and cornbread to work. So, yeah, that's what's cooking this week.
All right.
So there you go.
I was doing a little catch up on some BOF podcasts.
Yeah.
And I was stunned, shocked. I almost had to sit down with, I think it was chapter 14 of Batman Forever, where Pete Vera admitted to the world that he uses Pillsbury dough for his pizza.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know how to take that. That seems so antithetical to who Peter is.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to lose his New Jersey card, his Italian card.
I think so. I was shocked.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I was too, actually, Look, I'll throw out a Pillsbury dough, one of those pre-made doughs every once in a while. I don't feel like putting together a whole pizza crust from scratch, but, I'm a Texan, so that's okay, I'm not Italian from New Jersey. So
I mean, that's like,
you better keep that on the down and low. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if I were to use Mission tortillas for something, that would be like the equivalent. Like, they're not good.
That you bake your brisket in the oven,
Right. I was stunned, and I was like, that's surprising, given like he's given me like a marinara sauce recipe, and it's like fresh this and fresh that.
Yeah.
Hear him say Pillsbury.
I
was
got
like,
you.
what is going on?
I know.
But
I know.
Also, T.J. Hooker was William Shatner. That was his other show after. Not T.J. Hooper. I was like, Hooper is Burt Reynolds, the
That's right.
Stuntman movie.
Did I say T.J. Hooper?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
T.J. Hooker.
I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, there is like a weird connection, because like at one point, Sean Connery was not James Bond, and they looked at Adam West, and they looked at Burt Reynolds as a possibility for Diamonds Are Forever. So, there's a slight Batman connection.
Yeah.
Shatner to Hooper, Hooker to Hooper, Burt Reynolds to Adam West.
I knew about the Adam West. I didn't know how serious of a look he got, or if it was just rumor, but I never knew about Burt Reynolds, but interesting.
Yeah. And they eventually had this guy, John Gavin, that was hired, an American. And then when they landed a deal with Connery to come back, then they paid him off, and and then use
Oh,
Connery,
interesting.
obviously.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah. An
which at the
American.
time was like the highest uh, paid salary to an actor was Sean Connery in Diamonds Are
Would
Forever to get him to come back.
would Bond fandom
Implode?
implode if if
Yes.
they cast an American as
I
James
think
Bond?
so. I think so.
But yet we don't blink an eye with all the Brits who played
I don't know.
Batman.
I remember some dissenting voices on the internet how Superman and Batman and Spider-Man were all British at
Yeah.
one point,
Well,
in the
that's true.
early
Yeah.
2010s.
Yeah.
So, and hell, Spider-Man's still British right now. Just a different Brit.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even, yeah, that's stuff for the Reddits and the deep the deep uh the cretins that inhabit the very dark recesses of the
Yeah.
internet to
The social
complain
media
about.
site formerly known as
Yeah.
Twitter.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's been a minute since you and I have talked. The last time we talked was the day Val Kilmer passed away.
Okay.
Uh,
Almost a
un
month then, huh?
Yeah, unbeknownst to us as we were recording that chapter by
Yeah.
chapter with Micah
Yeah.
later that evening, we got the unfortunate news. So, lots.
And
I feel like
yeah.
a lot's happened since then.
Yeah. Well, nothing on the Batman Part Two. But that's understandable. I think that
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they're on putting all their eggs into Superman right now.
I I don't blame them.
And
That's a good idea.
you anything you want to talk anything DC live action film, I think you want it the discussion to be about Superman because you know that once they start announcing casting for the Batman Part Two, that's going to
Suck all the oxygen out of the
suck
room,
all the oxygen out of the,
or at
of
least out of the
everything. Yeah.
DC side of the room. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And given that, July is just like a bloodbath of releases between Jurassic World and Fantastic Four, Superman, and whatever else is coming out that month.
Yeah.
Like they need to save all their ammunition for Superman and
Yeah. The Batman
and
Part
wait.
Two can
That's
that news can
so down
come.
the road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can come. News casting news and that can come later this year. So yeah, let's let them focus on Superman. So that's just that's that's a smart thing to do. I mean, to be honest.
Yeah. Let the hype start to build for that. Enjoy the ride, as you say. I got my pre-order in for the McFarlane, the deluxe McFarlane whenever that comes out. They put it up, I think, on Superman Day, if I'm
If
not
they
mistaken.
if they would come out with just a crypto, I would buy the crypto. I don't think I'm going to partake in any of the other
Yeah,
merch,
there's a
but I wouldn't
standard
get crypto.
Superman that's got just like the rubber sculpted cape,
Yeah.
and then there's I forget what they call it, like the premium edition or something that comes with the wired cape and crypto. So as far as McFarlane goes, I think the only way to get a crypto is to get that deluxe Superman figure.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Silver Age Batman with Ace.
Yeah. Someone will sell
Sell
it
one
on
on eBay.
eBay
Yeah.
separately, I'm sure. Yeah.
Did you get your Begins figures in?
I did. I got
Man,
the well, I got Batman. Got
okay.
Batman. I don't
The
have
standard one.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually I did the double order thing by mistake again. So I have two. So I'm gonna
Time
give
for
one
an
away
for a
actually.
giveaway.
So yeah, I'm gonna give one away.
Nice.
And I do not well, they had Scarecrow too, correct?
I think so. I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
thinking of McFarlane or if I'm thinking of that hot toy. But
Well, I
I
know
think they
this.
are.
Okay.
No, they have
No.
to
That's
because
something okay.
yeah.
I did not get Scarecrow because I think they were, I don't know. I got Batman. That's the only one I got. I got two of them. So I'm gonna give one away. I was thinking our friend Patrick Johnson, he did me a solid and the day that the year one figures
Oh, yeah.
released, I was working,
Yeah.
and he got a Gordon and Batman for me.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, yeah. This reminds me, I've been look, I am I've been thinking I'm at a point with Batman on film that kind of like when I was, being retired. I've been retired for 7 years from coaching and teaching, and I've subbed a little bit. That's what Rachel still teaches, so I'd sub at her school. But I just felt like I wanted to do something else. So when you hear me talk about working, I'm working part time as a physical therapy assistant, and which is right up my alley with my coaching background. With Batman on film, I'm kind of in that same spot of I'm going toward year 30. I mean, we're going
Yeah.
rapidly getting to year 30 of Batman on film.
By the time part two comes out, yeah, you're going to be
Yeah,
right
and
around there.
so what? How can I, do something different but still maintain the integrity of Batman on film? So I'm thinking of things, and one thing I would like to do a show. We've talked about this for a while. I would like to do a podcast show, and maybe even do it as a video show too. Is about Batman collectibles.
Yeah, like a toy box episode. We've been talking
Yeah,
about that for a while.
and have
We just
have
never
it
did.
be, I need to have its own show. Whatever we hell come up with to call it, because there's a lot
Yeah.
of collectibles to talk about, and people. I'm sure there are people you can bring on to talk about collectibles as well. You see there's some really awesome collections out there. People
Yeah.
have full on Batman 66 Bat caves and stuff like that. So yeah, that's something I'm thinking about pulling trigger on. So we'll discuss
Yeah.
later.
We've got some
Yeah.
good people in our Facebook
Yeah.
group too, like Frank,
Sure.
who,
Yeah.
give us lots of
Yeah.
heads ups on things. And
Yeah.
I I got that Begins McFarlane figure, and that's my favorite version of this suit, I think,
Yeah.
in plastic. Like it
Yeah, it
has
looks
such a
good.
great presence, and I love the cape. And now I'm kind of like, do I need to get the Nightmare version? Because I don't have a version of that. I've never had a
Yeah,
version of that. Like, is it
I've
worth
got
tracking down?
I've got the Funko Pop of that, but not the McFarlane Nightmare Batman. So
But
we'll see.
but outside of that, it's like I'm kind of at my limit of
I,
where I can put
well, I'm looking
things
around
in.
here. I'm sitting in the office, and I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of at my limit too. I'm
And
stacking things on top of each other nowadays.
yeah, like I passed on the year one because I didn't see enough of Mazzucchelli, of his art style in the figure.
Yeah.
And I've got plenty of black and gray Batmans, so it is what it is. Right now,
Yeah.
I'm counting down the days for when my points convert from the Keaton Flash figure that I got, so then I can use those points to pre-order Clooney from Batman and Robin,
Okay.
and hopefully the tariff situation gets resolved by then. By the time that figure comes
Don't
out,
hold
which
your
is like
breath.
a year down the road.
I did pick
Yeah.
up, and we'll move on to Batman. Now it's become collectible talk, but I did pick up the McFarlane, the Black Light Mr. Freeze from Batman and
Oh, you
Robin.
did?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So got that added to the Burton Schumacher area of the office.
Have you held
It's
it up
cool.
to a black light?
I have not. I don't even think I own a Black Light. I don't own a Black Light, but I didn't get all of those. For one thing, I didn't take anything out of the box, but I didn't get all the Batman and Robin figures to build Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
And so they had this, and there was some that were put together and then like sold on eBay, but they were kind of like, you know. Um, so this came out, I got it. It's fine. I mean, it looks good without being black light lit,
Yeah.
if you will. It looks fine on its own. All right, I'll shut
Right
up.
on. Well, today we're shining the bat signal on Batman, the Brave and the Bold, with an episode that has several Silver Age references, not to mention a major modern one at the time of the release. So, airing October 22nd, 2010, Emperor Joker is the 19th episode of season 2, It was directed by Heather A. Maxwell with a story written by Steve Melching. And being the brave and the bold, obviously, Diedrich Bader is Batman. Jeff Bennett is the Joker and Joker Mite. Robin Atkin Downes is Ten-Eyed Man and a very different Firefly. Paul Rubens is Batmite. Jeremy Shada is Robin. And Megan Strange makes the only appearance of Harley Quinn for this show, if IMDb is to be believed, as Harley Quinn. So the plot, fifth dimensional fanboy Batmite inadvertently gives Joker his limitless power while hoping to witness a hero-villain showdown. So we open on the dynamic duo running to the Bat computer where they open up the secret files to reveal Batman's greatest cases, which proudly announces that it features the Rainbow Batman in color. And this is important as the show homages the cover from Detective Comics 241 from March of 1957. So I have to ask, what did a Bat historian like you think when you first saw this? Were you excited? Did you roll your
Oh, yeah.
eyes because it was
No.
Rainbow Batman?
Oh, no. No. I'm quite fond. I did a Lauer show, Batman Book Club on Detective Comics 241, Rainbow Batman. We did that, broke that story down. I picked it. So I was actually at San Diego Comic-Con and they premiered this episode there
Oh,
that summer. It was 2010, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I was at Comic-Con, so it was in July, and they had the big Warner Brothers animation presentation, and part of the presentation, of course, they, announced some of the animated features that were going to be on the horizon. I don't remember what was announced then, but then they, this was in a, it wasn't in Hall H, but it was in a pretty big room. And they had, and I got lucky. I got in with my press pass, so I got kind of up close. Thanks to super PR guy Gary, our old friend. And yeah, they showed this episode, and it went over really big with the crowd. The whole thing, and it's. I had I told you before we started recording. I said, this, after watching this again for a first time in a while, and there's a lot to choose from with Brave and the Bold, but this could be one of my favorite episodes, maybe not if the favorite episode of this series. And yeah, back to Rainbow Batman, they did pay an homage to Detective Comics 241. Bader's Batman recites the same exact dialogue that Batman says on the front cover. I must wear a different color bat suit every night. I must,
Yeah.
And
for different reasons than the comic.
Yeah, but the story is different.
Yeah.
The little short story that goes with it, with Firefly and all that, and is different from what the comic book version is. But I thought that was cool. And there's also that, at the end of that little opening segment, there's a nod to the 66 Batman series where,
yes,
Batman shakes Robin's hand and then throws the cape up over his, lower half of his face. So yeah, I like that kind of stuff. That I like that.
Very, very much the
historical
60s
homages. Yeah.
An homage to the 60s main titles for sure.
Now, I'll ask you, because I don't know, so don't take my bat card away, I am not familiar with this version of Firefly.
I am not either. That's something that I made note of, that it's Firefly, which we all know as Garfield Lynns typically.
Yeah.
But he's more of like a pyromaniac, and this Firefly has like this belt that emits, all these different colors of light to help him in his crimes, and can do ray beams.
Because
it's not fire based at all.
Yeah.
So,
I had like a Mandela effect going into watching this, because for some reason I thought it was Crazy Quilt that was the villain.
That makes sense
of this. It had the beams. There is an episode where there's a opening segment with Crazy Quilt that's kind of sort of similar. I must be
I feel like
confusing the
there
two.
is. I can't think of what it is right now,
But I did.
but
I
that
went.
sounds familiar.
So I watched it for the first time. I watched it yesterday and I watched it again this morning. And I was like, but the first time yesterday, I was like, Firefly, wasn't that Crazy Quilt that was, the villain of the opening segment? But
Oh.
like I said, must have been a Mandela effect.
Quick Wikipedia search says that Firefly made his debut in Detective 184 of June in 1952, initially portrayed as a criminal who utilized lighting effects to commit robberies.
Okay.
He was
Okay.
later reimagined as a sociopathic pyromaniac following Crisis on Infinite Earths in the 1980s.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So the more you know, because
Yeah.
I did not know that.
If it was Brave and the Bold, there had to be some comic book accuracy to Firefly and this version of Firefly. I just was not familiar with that version of Firefly. So you learn, like I said, you learn something new
I mean,
every day.
and it makes sense given that that's how they did things. Oh, yeah, he was the human Firefly. But yeah, his looking at a picture of the cover, like, yeah, his costume is very much what they did on the show.
Okay. Well,
So
I am not surprised.
how do you like that? Two Bat fans, lifelong
Yeah.
Bat fans. We just learned something right
Yeah.
now.
The Pyromaniac version is the only one that I'm really familiar with. Just being honest with, out
Yeah,
there. So,
no.
yeah.
Um, there's another homage too because Firefly shoots this red beam out at Batman, which he's wearing like a red suit, so it neutralizes, as
Yeah.
opposed to the comic where he was wearing different colored suits to distract from Robin's
Distract.
broken
Yeah.
arm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here he's wearing it to combat Firefly until Firefly brings out the rainbow creature
Mm-hmm.
from Batman 134, which was September of 1960. So have you read that one?
I I don't want to say, yeah, probably because I'm familiar with it, but it's way back in the day if I did read it.
Yeah.
But I know, yeah, I know Rainbow Creature.
It was reprinted as part of the Black Case book,
Yeah.
which was a trade of like old 50s stories that Morrison took inspiration from when he started his Batman run.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the most recent time that I read it was we did an episode on the Comic Binge talking about all those stories that came in that. Uh, so we got several references in just the first couple of minutes between the TV
Mm-hmm.
show, three different Batman comic books, and the Rainbow Creature. Um, so yeah, I thought it was a good opening.
Yeah, it's really good.
You you didn't seem to mind Robin at all.
No, I like I said, I have I can compartmentalize Batman based on medium. That makes
Yeah.
sense. And the Brave and the Bold is what it is. I accept it for what it is, and I love it for what it is. So yes.
What was his line? He had a holy line, didn't he? And I didn't write it down.
Yeah.
Holy prisms, or I don't remember. That's not
Yeah.
it. That's not it. But he got into Burt Wardism too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um, jumping to the main story, Batman interrupts the Ten-Eyed Man who's robbing a jewelry store. Now, Ten-Eyed Man first appeared in Batman 226 from November 1970, and he's given quite a creepy entrance here, with his 10 eyes like
Hmm.
emerging from the darkness. How familiar are you with him?
Yeah. A little bit. Yeah. A little bit. I mean, I know who the Ten-Eyed Man is, but like I learned more about his backstory from Batmite in this episode than I did just
Yeah,
general knowledge. That I thought that was fun. Batmite pulling out
the Who's Who.
the Who's Who comic book, and reading the bio of Ten-Eyed Man.
Yeah, Batmite shows up with a copy of Who's Who 23, which is from January of 87, and reads his entry and shows it off to Batman. And yeah, I thought it was really cool to see that because I forgot about that part.
Yeah.
And once he's done with it, he even bags it and boards it and puts it into a long
Yes.
box
Yeah.
and makes fun of, Batman being so three-dimensional. But it was cool to like see like the actual cover, and then he goes on the inside and it looks exactly like that comic looked. Like they went into all the detail for it, and then he's right next
Yeah.
to Deathstroke, who at the time was more uh I guess known for being the Terminator, because he had a book at one point that was called Deathstroke the Terminator.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that just faded away because of the Schwarzenegger movies. I
Probably.
don't
Yeah.
know why. But I mean, we all think of Deathstroke now as just Deathstroke. But um, Ten-Eyed Man for me, like I think my first introduction would have been Grant Morrison using them in Batman 675, like right before RIP kicks off. So um, we, going back to like Batmite, we get this great quote from him. True fans appreciate a nod to the more obscure villains from your rogues gallery. That's one of the great things about your show.
Yes.
And and
I
again,
made
that just
I made note of that. I made note of things that stood out that yes, the obscure villains. I do another thing I love about this show is the obscure villains that they bring up, no matter how ridiculous they could be, uh, part of Batman history. And this show has always been a nod and a love letter to Batman history. So come on with it.
and Batman defeats Ten-Eyed Man by throwing a cactus at him,
Yes.
which Ten-Eyed Man catches and then gets blinded by it. Like
Kind of
that's
made I don't it's a I know it's a cartoon and people don't
yeah,
have eyeballs on their fingertips, but I did kind of wince at the thought of
right?
something
Yeah.
poking you in the eye. So
I
good
mean,
job by them.
I've had the misfortune of getting impaled by a cactus. I was on a Cub Scout trip and got into some jumping cactus. That hurt. That was in my leg.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine getting it in your eyeballs. Um, so yeah, that was kind of a gruesome way for him to be taken down when you think about
Yeah.
it. But um, Batmite admits after Ten-Eyed Man is taken care of, Batmite admits that he's obsessed with Batman, but states that Batman is obsessed with Joker and takes him to a museum of all their greatest hits. So, I mean, this is like Easter egg galore here. We got the
Yes.
Laughing Fish Detective 475 cover. We've got your favorite, the Five Way Revenge cover.
Yep.
Um, the cover of Batman 11 with Batman and Robin punching the Joker with all these trading cards in the background. The Joker's utility belt from Batman 73.
Mm-hmm.
The Joker stealing Batman's thunder from Batman 37. And even like they jump forward a little bit and we get like the Death in the Family trade paperback
Mm-hmm.
cover from Jim
Mm-hmm.
Aparo. And Batmite even hints how he voted. And what really brings us into this episode is like there's a space, for their next great conflict.
Yeah.
Did you have any favorites? I mean, I'm gonna guess Five Way Revenge was
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
your
For
favorite.
sure. Yeah. But I like all of them. I'd love that stuff. And I'd love how self-aware this show is of what it is and what it's doing. So, and it's just great. And I sing its praises every time we talk about an episode from it.
There was one with the Joker kind of standing over like a defeated penguin that I didn't recognize.
Yeah.
Did you know what that was from?
No, I had to go look at
Okay.
it again, but I'll go back and look, but
That was the only
couldn't.
one that I didn't like
Yeah.
clock of what it was supposed to be. And I thought that was interesting. And again, like we've been saying, like there's so much thought that goes into these shows and tributes and homages um that yeah, like they'll even surprise diehard fans like us. So that's
Yes.
what's really cool
Yep.
about the show.
Yep.
I personally like seeing the Death in the Family because that was my second trade paperback that I ever got was the one with that cover. So to see like the Brave and the Bold version of it was pretty cool, and to get a Jason Todd reference, and Batman doesn't even phase him. He's
Yeah.
not like, who's Jason Todd? Like
Yeah.
there's none of that. It's just, it's Batmite, so he just rolls with it. Um, so when they show off what their next great conflict is going to be, Batman gets notification that the Joker has coincidentally just escaped from Arkham. And Batman speeds off to apprehend him with Batmite in tow, who he makes promise to not use his powers. So I think we're going to take just a quick pause in our conversation to have a quick word from our sponsors right here. So now that the Joker's free from Arkham once again, he goes to rob a comedy museum. Did you recognize the inspiration for any of his henchmen?
Yeah. Sure. Charlie Chapman. Um, he mentions the Three Stooges with the seltzer bottle, Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on one being Laurel, but there was definitely one that was
Yeah.
Hardy-ish.
But
And what I thought was really,
one of the goons had kind of the the Oliver Hardy
yeah,
mustache
mustache
and the derby
and the
hat.
size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're all like these big and brawny versions, like because Charlie Chaplin was a really skinny dude.
Yeah.
And like this guy's just like a hulking. This is like
Yeah.
Charlie Chapman on Venom, you know. And
Yeah.
even oh man, his name just escapes me right now. Charlie Chaplin's competitor. Oh my God. Well, he's in it too. There's another Buster Keaton.
First, the key.
There's even a guy
I was
that looks
just,
like
yeah, I was
Buster
just about to
Keaton.
say it.
But what's cool about them is like they're all in like black and white. Like
Yeah.
their faces, I'm assuming, are painted up in black and white, and their attire is black and white. So they look like they just literally came from that
They look
era.
like, yeah, silent movie. I think
And then
silent
we
movie,
get,
even, yeah, the black and white era. So, yeah.
yeah. And there's even a Harley Quinn in
Mm-hmm.
this, like we mentioned at the top of the show. And she's got like this kind of flapper, 1920s flapper look.
Mm-hmm.
And Batmite just falls head over heels for Harley, which
Yeah.
is
Does the old, like Looney Tunes, hearts evading out of, your hearts jumping out of your chest and the eyes and all that. I was like, that's nod to Looney Tunes. There's another nod to Looney Tunes as well at the very end.
several. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think having Batmite and his reality altering powers allows them that latitude in the story
Mm-hmm.
to bring some of these goofier moments, like when you get like the classic angel and devil characters popping up on Batmite's shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have an angel Batmite and a devil Batmite,
Yeah.
and the devil Batmite convinces, Batmite to give his powers to Batman because he promised that he wouldn't use his powers, but there's nothing that says Batman can't use Batmite's
Mm-hmm.
powers. So he aims his powers with like a finger gun, fires, and he misses, and they go to the Joker instead. Um, so I gotta ask, are you familiar with the Superman Emperor Joker storyline?
Yes. Yes and no.
Okay.
I'm familiar with it probably I don't know if I've read it, but I know I've
The
done
major
like
beats.
I've done research on it to know about it for something that was here. It's something
Yeah.
about Batman on film or something at one time. Yeah.
Anthony Desiato on Digging for Kryptonite is doing like a Jeff Loeb, Joe Kelly series right now in his show, and I was on it recently. And I did the storylines right before this. So I started rereading Emperor Joker, which is why I'm like, oh yeah, there's an episode. Let's talk about it on BOF. It was a 9-part Superman story from 2000. It ran across all 4 titles, so 2 issues each, and then a special. And basically, Mr. Mxyzptlk gives
Yeah.
Joker his powers, and then the Joker changes all of reality, killing Batman every night, basically. Like it starts off with like Superman in Arkham Asylum, wearing an all black suit, and he hears every night, like at a certain time, like this man crying out in agony. He doesn't know what it is, but Superman's in jail because apparently he murdered Lex Luthor and everyone thinks he's insane. But like the whole thing is crazy because Lois is bald and in charge of LexCorp, and the JLA is like the Joker League of Arkham or Anarchy or something, and Aquaman's a fish person, and Steel is like the Tin Man. It's just everything is crazy. Bizarro's in charge. Um, and so eventually, like, Superman finds out that it's Batman who's getting murdered and the Joker's behind it all, but the Joker through Mixospitlick. It's crazy. And it has a very interesting ending, kind of similar to what we get here. But I mean, this show takes its inspiration from that storyline and
Yeah.
does something
Yeah.
very, very different with it, obviously. Makes it its own, which I think is fun about adapting these things, how you work it into that show's framework.
Hmm.
Um, and realizing his mistake, Batmite wants his powers back, but Joker just makes him a nemesis, which is where we get Jokermite,
Poker
who
Mike.
just
Yeah.
looks and sounds terrifying. What did you think of him?
Well, it was funny and funny in a good way. And for some reason, the look of his face reminded me of Jack Nicholson's Joker.
Yes, I was just going to say that. Yeah.
I don't know if that's intentional, but I probably is, knowing it's Brave and the Bold. But yeah, that's the first thing I remember thinking. It's kind of like Jack Nicholson Joker right there in his face.
Yeah, there's something about like the size and the shape of his head and just how
Hmm.
big his smile is in his eyes. Because obviously the Joker on this show is from like that, 40s and 50s aesthetic. But this,
Hmm.
there definitely did seem to have like this Nicholson aura about him. Um, and Batmite gets punched, and we see instead of like little tweeting birds around his head, we see bats flying around his head.
Yeah.
So going back to like the Looney Tunes of it all.
Hmm.
And Joker gives himself a new costume and launches into a musical number. Where's the fun in that?
Where's the fun in
S-
that? Yeah.
So how for you, how does it fare against like the Music Meister songs or I Go Loony from The Killing
Oh,
Joke?
it's not. It's notch below those, but it's still fun. It's still a fun little segment of the episode. If you had a greatest hits of Brave and the Bold, I don't know if I'd put that one on there, but I don't know how many songs there were overall, so maybe you'd have to include it on the soundtrack to have a greatest
Yeah,
hits. But yeah, I would put the other ones in front of that. Death Trap is a great song.
Death Trap is a
Yeah.
classic. Yeah, I was having a conversation with my daughter the other day who's almost done with high school now. And, when they were little, we used to listen to that Brave and the Bold Music Meister soundtrack all the way to
Hmm.
school and back. And she's a big fan of Glee too, which when the Flash did their version, like three actors who were on Glee are in the Flash version of the Music Meister episode. And despite all that, she still likes the Music Meister Brave and the Bold episode better than the Flash,
Yeah.
version.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a classic. And I think the song's good. But I would agree something like Death Trap is a lot I don't know. Maybe it's just
Yeah.
because I'm more nostalgic for it that I go for that because I totally forgot there was a song in this. But I definitely got a lot of thematically from the lyrics, like from the I Go Loony Killing Joke. Like I
Yeah.
feel like it's very, very close to that as well. But like the comic, Joker proceeds to kill Batman in this very like mousetrap game style trap.
Hmm.
Like it probably takes like 2 minutes for this whole thing to actually go in and kill Batman. And just when you think
Yeah.
Batman gets out of it and survives, he gets killed. And
And the
going back to
angel, the,
like,
the angel Batman starts floating up. That's out of
yeah,
Looney Tunes.
yeah, I'm gonna say going back to the Looney Tunes of it all, Batman dies. He's got the angel wings. He's got the harp.
Yeah.
And then the Joker's like, all right, let's do it again. And like it kind of like does this like rewind effect
Mhm.
and brings it back to life. Did you have a favorite death from all the ones that we see of Batman
Probably
here?
the first one where the giant hammer slams down on him. Because he gets out and says, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but you think that's going to stop me, Joker? They whack, and then the angel
Yeah.
floats up. It's just straight out of Looney Tunes. It was funny.
I really liked the acid one.
Yeah,
Like he
when
gets
he's
dipped in the
skeleton,
yeah, yeah.
skeleton with the bat
Like
suit on. Yeah,
I feel like that's the most gruesome. Like it's a kid show and there's nothing like
yeah,
it doesn't come off as graphic, but like if you think about it, like there's his skeleton like just dissolved away in the
yeah,
tatters of the costume.
yeah,
Like
for sure.
it yeah, this episode's a little more violent than I give it credit for because I mean Batman dies at least 7 or 8 times, not to mention the
Yeah,
cactus in the eyes. But
it's kind of it's that slapstick
yeah,
violence, Three Stooges type of stuff in a way. Also kind of reminded me, I don't know why it reminds me of like Groundhog Day, the movie, a little bit.
yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
In a way, it's
because there is
completely
that whole
dip. Yeah,
montage of
yeah. But
yeah,
like just dying over and over again. It's kind of, yeah. That's why I got that groundhog vibe from Groundhog Day vibe out of it.
yeah, no, that's a good analogy. And finally, after getting electrocuted in the electric chair, uh, being the tactical genius that the Dark Knight is, Batman uses reverse psychology to trick Joker into taking away his sanity, which prompts the Joker to go inside Batman's mind. And I mean, come on, you knew from the second that
Yeah,
was a
and he,
ploy, you know.
and the screwdriver, and the head comes off like it's like a cap to it.
Yeah,
That's Looney Tunes, something you would see in a Looney Tunes cartoon.
but there's this great he has this great line that's so Adam Westy. Like a mind is a terrible thing to lose. Like
Yeah,
it's so good. And it reminded me a bit of, the mind is a terrible thing to waste. Those old
yeah, yeah,
PSAs
yeah.
from the 80s to not do drugs, but I I almost feel like Adam West just said something like that because it sounds so much of
Hmm.
that show.
Sure.
Um, and before Joker dives into Batman's mind, he takes away Harley's voice because she's like having second thoughts about everything. And now she can only speak in silent movie dialogue cards,
Yeah, yeah,
which comes into play later. Because once Joker's inside Batman's mind, Joker might's planning a mutiny. How did you like the Harley Batmite team up?
it was cute. You know, um, that's probably the best word I had to describe it. It serves its purpose as a
Yeah.
plot device to essentially help Batman beat the Joker, but then also at the very, when ultimately Harley stays loyal to the Joker. I remember, like I said, I saw this at Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con, and with a crowd, and I remember people were really they got all not worked up in a bad way, but they were when we got the Batman Brave and the Bold version of Harley when she appeared, and we
Yeah.
knew it was Harley Quinn. It was like, oh, and a lot of people clap and stuff. So it got a positive rise out of the audience at that time.
Yeah, because this is, like we said, this is season 2, episode 19. So we're past the halfway point on this show
Yeah,
that we
and
finally get
it's
to,
yeah,
to Harley Quinn.
and we do get
And
Batmite ends up in Harley Quinn's the
Peach
original
Ass
Harley
costume.
Quinn,
Yeah.
yeah, her suit, yeah, exactly,
And there's a great moment between the two of them where, like, she realizes, you know, Batman's only going to be the number one for Joker, just like Batmite realizes that the Joker's always going to be number one for Batman.
Yeah.
And there's like a nice echo of what we see later in the Lego Batman movie, which obviously hadn't
Yeah.
come out by this point at all, but
Sure.
it made me think of that, of,
Yeah.
of that dynamic between the two characters. Um, so they team up, they take down Batmite, or I'm sorry, Joker Mite. Harley uses, or Batmite uses one of Harley's dialogue cards to smack
Yeah.
Joker Mite with. And instead of seeing bats like Batmite did when he gets the swirling birds for Joker Mite, it's actually the laughing fish
Yeah.
that are flying around his head, which I
Yeah.
thought was pretty cool. And then we get to like the probably the most psychological part of the show is, Joker breaks through all these different doors and vaults to get to deep inside Batman's secret,
Mm-hmm.
mocking him about like his parents didn't love him or something. And Joker finally sees a world without Batman. Um, like without Batman, the police are overwhelmed and crime is rampant. And without a Batman, like Joker has no one to match wits with, and therefore he has no reason to exist and is instead just an average guy.
Mm-hmm.
And this terrifies him, and he reverts his powers back to Batmite, which leaves the Joker just a drooling mess once he gets out of Batman's head.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How did you feel about all that?
Another nod to that aspect, that version of the Batman Joker dynamic of two sides of one coin, you know, the yin and the yang, all of that. You know what I'm saying? It's just that's what they're bringing up, and they're doing it in a fun way, and it worked actually going in Batman's head, and I thought the vault after door after vault, and cells, and it's all locked up. And how much stuff is locked away in Batman's head was the way it was shown was cool.
And when he finally gets in there and like the city pops up, something about that made me think of the cover of Batman Ego, where
Okay.
it's got like the city and like Batman's kind of
Yeah.
coming out of it, but he's trapped. But also like thematically when they're talking about their relationship, and it reminded me of, Heath Ledger's speech at the end of The Dark Knight
Yeah.
of, what's the fun without
Yeah.
Batman, and how they could do it forever, and
You won't
there's
kill
something
me
that
because of some,
because I'm
moral
too much.
code, and I
Yeah.
won't kill you because you're just too much fun. Yeah.
Yeah, like there felt like there was like they were kind of paying an homage to that as well
Sure.
without it being direct. Um, so despite like all this silliness, like there's this great moment of like truth about these characters in the show
Hmm.
that I think is one of the strengths that, if you just go a little bit beyond the surface, like, the adults in the room can find something to chew over, which I thought was really cool.
Well, even people who prefer dark, solo, grounded Batman can find something, well, more than something, some things in this episode, because it's just, I say it every time we talk about an episode. It's just such the Batman history, the accuracy, the nods, the homages to it all. It's one of the great overall Batman things we've ever had, in my opinion. Yes.
So as we're tying it up here, what about this for you makes you feel like it's the your favorite or the greatest episode, as opposed to like, Might Fall or
That's another
Chill
good
of the
one.
Night? Like what elevates this to be in that top tier for you?
Chill of the Night is good because it's one that it's kind of a heavy episode, and it's the one time they went. I don't want to say traditional Batman. They got away from. They did a serious episode. Is that fair
Yeah.
or not? Is that okay? And we all like it for that, and it really explored Batman mythos and Batman's, his psyche and whatnot. But I think with this one, it's Joker and Batman, and it's really Joker and Batman at the very core in a lot of ways. And then it just all the little different historical nods to comics and the 60s series and Looney Tunes and all of it. It just works. And they throw in, and there's a musical number in it by the Joker. It's a really, I like this episode a lot.
They do cram in a lot in the 22-minute runtime.
Yeah. Yeah. Not to mention that there's its own little story, before the opening credits. The opening segment with Rainbow Batman. You got that as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of these, this is what these shows, you get this little pre-show, then you get the main show on Brave with Brave and the Bold episodes.
Yeah, for a show that I wasn't terribly keen on when it first came out, like as the show kept going, and like it became so clear how much love for the character they had, and they were just going about it in a different way than we'd seen before.
It's like you brought it up, you mentioned it just a moment ago, the Lego Batman movie and Brave and the Bold. I mean, you want a Batman layman and say you want a fairly quick and entertaining introduction into the world of Batman and Batman history, show them a few episodes, pick out a few episodes of Brave and the Bold and watch the Lego Batman movie.
Yeah.
You'll come out with a PhD. Well, I don't know about that, but
an Easter egg PhD.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, as the episode closes out, Batmite pulls a Porky Pig and pops up through the drum and gives us the that's all, folks.
Yeah.
Which is very appropriate given this episode.
Yep.
So yeah, any final thoughts on Emperor Joker?
No, I have brought this one up before over how long we've been doing Batmanimation, 2 or 3. I'll say 2 years and it'll be 10. You know how that goes. I know.
Well, I mean, we're at episode 70, so it's been a minute.
Yeah. I've wanted to do this one, and I got in a role of doing a lot of Brave and the Bold episodes for a while. So I'm glad to come back and finally do this one. It was fun to talk about.
Yeah, I definitely gravitate towards these episodes that have some basis in one of the comic stories.
And
so
I would also say,
for me.
And of course, it's in I was just thinking, were there any nods to the movies? Well, just the Nicholson Joker mic look, but in the beginning when Batman's suiting up in the Rainbow Batman part, that's Batman Forever, suit up nod. The glove and the boots. I mean, the whole, it's, so yeah, got that too.
Or even just, the Adam West of it all. And Adam West was in a movie. So
yeah,
that also counts.
Sure.
Episode 1 of Batmanimation was August 18th of 2022. So we're getting close to 3 years now.
Okay.
Of this subset show.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, where can people find you, Bill?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe at Batman on Film, batman-on-film.com. There you go. That's what I got. Find everything.
You are merely Bill Ramey.
I'm merely the founder of Batman on Film. Yep.
Surprise, surprise. I am also on batman-on-film.com reviewing Batman and Robin Year One, which is a totally different book, but just as good. And Catwoman, Gargoyle of Gotham. I think that's it for right now. So check those out. Time permitting, we'll have some new unboxing videos up of the Tweeterhead Batman statue.
Yeah. Yeah, those are coming.
And a Batman modern suit from the Flash hot toy unboxing coming up as well. So
cool.
That is an impressive figure, let me tell you.
I will also mention before we go, almost done with Batman Forever chapter by chapter. Check those episodes out. You only got 2 left. Hobby, you're in like 4 or 5 episodes, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been fun going through Batman Forever again. Check those out. And I found something I was searching for a screenshot. I was taking a screenshot for the last episode, and I found something I'd never noticed before.
Yeah.
Involving Robin, and when he had his new, when he finally put on the new, all out Robin costume at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is that has also been pointed out for the hot toy. That particular thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That is definitely captured in 1/6 scale.
Like I said, you
So
30-year-old movie, you learn something you didn't know every day. Anyway, Batman Forever, chapter by chapter. Check those out.
and soon Batman Begins.
Yeah, there we go. I said I would be done before the end of May. I may be done. Yeah, I'll be done.
You're true to your word. Yeah, we're gonna have to like start Begins early almost.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, because my goal is now I'm gonna do them all. We're gonna do all of them, which always was the goal, but now I'm really gonna put the pedal to the metal and just keep. Once a season is over of a particular film, we'll go pick up something else. And hell, I wouldn't even mind doing the 40s serials as a chapter.
I was gonna ask,
literally chapter by chapter, because they were actually released in chapters.
Released in chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So look forward to
that.
Do
you have the DVDs for those?
I for sure have the Batman and Robin, the 49.
I never got around to buying those. I'll have to look at the bookstore.
You could probably find them. Yeah. I don't think I have the Batman from 1943, but I do have in DVD. I have Batman and Robin. Yeah, but you can find the episodes.
There's no way
they're online. I mean, you can just put it in and you can watch the whole thing online.
Yeah, there's no way they're gonna ever put those out in like high definition or
probably
anything
not
like that.
No,
a little too problematic, I would imagine.
Sure.
For modern sensibilities.
Yeah.
So, although they do like to do their little cliff notes at the beginning, like they did with Gone with the Wind, that this represents a different time and way of thinking, but we're preserving it for historical accuracy things. So
yeah,
you never know. Maybe Warner Brothers will be like, we could use some money right now.
Yeah. I don't know the legality of that because I don't know if Columbia still owns them. I don't know how that works.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah, that's also true. I didn't think about that.
They were produced through Columbia.
Naturally assume everything is under the WB banner, but I mean, look at like the Adam West stuff. That took, an act of God
took a long,
to get that box set to come out.
Yeah, absolutely, it did. Yeah,
and I will never part with that set, ever.
No,
so
still got mine. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for listening. This has been Bill and Javi for Batmanimation. Announcer Rachel will take us out.
Thanks for listening to Batmanimation, a BatmanOnFilm.com podcast revisiting the animated TV and film adventures of the Caped Crusader. Follow Batmanimation on Twitter @Batmanimation. Follow BOF on Twitter @TheBatmanOnFilm. Follow Jet on Twitter @BatmanOnFilm. For Jet and Team BOF, I'm announcer Rachel. Batman on Film, authoritative, definitive, the original, established in 1998.
Passion ignited in every frame. The heroes are ignited with articles, rip reviews that shine. A triumph of Gotham's finest, for legends entwined with a Batman!